A 1905 family portrait remained hidden for more than 100 years. When workers finally uncovered it, one small detail left everyone shocked and silent. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, comment your thoughts, and subscribe. Construction foreman Michael Sullivan wiped sweat from his forehead. His team was getting ready to tear down the last standing wall inside the old Whitmore mansion on Beacon Hill in Boston. The large Victorian house had been built in 1885. It stood proud for many years, but then stayed empty for nearly 30 years. The city finally marked it unsafe and ordered it demolished so new buildings could go up. The job felt ordinary until Michael swung his heavy sledgehammer. It crashed through the thick, fancy wallpaper in the dining room and punched a hole into the dark wooden paneling behind it. A small hidden space opened up. "Everybody stop," he shouted. He dropped his tools and leaned in to look. Inside the narrow cavity, wrapped carefully in faded yellow silk and held inside a solid wooden frame, sat a large photographic portrait. The picture looked almost perfect, as though time had never touched it. The image showed 5 people dressed in fine clothes, posed stiffly in what appeared to be the exact same dining room. Elegant handwriting on the back of the frame said, "The Whitmore family, September 1905. The father, Jonathan, sat tall and serious in a deep leather chair. His wife, Margaret, stood beside him with one hand gently resting on his shoulder. 2 young boys wearing matching dark sailor suits stood straight on either side of their parents. In the very center stood a little girl, about 8 years old. She wore a lovely white dress covered in delicate lace. Her face looked calm and bright. Michael knew right away this was no ordinary find. He called the Boston Historical Society and explained what they had discovered. The excellent condition of the photo and the strange way it had been hidden behind layers of wall made him think there must be an important story waiting to be told. Dr. Amanda Foster, an expert on old American photography, arrived at the site within a few hours. She wore white cotton gloves and studied the portrait very carefully. Almost at once, she noticed several strange things about the lighting, the poses, and the overall style. Those details did not match the usual family photographs taken around 1905. "This is really something special," she said quietly. "The picture is in amazing shape, but the way the light falls and how everyone is arranged feels wrong for a normal studio session. We need to study this much more closely." That moment began a long investigation. Slowly it revealed one of the most surprising and sad family secrets ever kept in Boston. For over a century, the truth had stayed buried behind wallpaper, wood, and the rules of polite society. Dr. Foster brought the portrait back to her laboratory at the Historical Society. She examined it under bright controlled lights, used powerful magnifying tools, and ran modern digital scans. Right away she saw something odd. The faces of the parents and the 2 boys had normal studio shadows and soft highlights from lamps used in 1905. But the little girl in the center had completely different lighting. It looked as though she had been photographed at another time and in another place, then carefully added into the family picture. Dr. Foster went to the Boston City Archives to learn everything she could about the Whitmore family. Jonathan Whitmore had been a wealthy textile factory owner. He and his wife Margaret lived in the big Beacon Hill house with their 3 children from 1885 until 1920. Then, without warning, the whole family disappeared from Boston. They left no new address and cut almost all contact with old friends. Birth records listed 3 children: Benjamin, born in 1892, Charles, born in 1894, and Alice, born in 1897. But when Dr. Foster checked death certificates, her heart sank. A record clearly stated that Alice Whitmore died on February 12, 1903, from scarlet fever, 2 full years before the date written on the back of the portrait. The discovery raised big questions. Was there a mistake in the death record? Was this a different child named Alice, or had someone written the wrong year on the frame? Dr. Foster decided to search deeper. She asked for old medical papers, school attendance lists, church records, and any letters the family might have left behind. At the same time, she read books and articles about photography in 1905. She looked especially for methods that let photographers combine separate pictures or change images to hide certain facts. 2 weeks later, while studying the portrait under very high magnification and using the latest digital enhancement, Dr. Foster spotted something that made her breath catch. The young girl's eyes looked strange, almost painted. There was also a very faint outline of something solid behind her small body. Using special infrared photography that reveals hidden layers, she could clearly see a thin metal rod running up the girl's back from the floor. The rod connected to wires and supports that held her body perfectly upright and still. This kind of hidden support was well known in Victorian-era post-mortem photography. In those days, many families wanted one last picture of a loved one who had died. Photographers posed the body to look alive and peaceful so the family could keep the memory forever. The truth hit Dr. Foster hard. She was holding a post-mortem portrait. Little Alice, who had died 2 years earlier, had been carefully dressed, made up, and supported so she could stand in the center of her living family, as though nothing had happened. Post-mortem photography was quite common back then. Most pictures showed the dead person alone, or lying in a coffin, or surrounded by family at the bedside, but creating a full, formal family portrait, everyone dressed up, smiling, posed, in the dining room, with the dead child made to look completely alive, was extremely rare. It took great skill, special equipment, and a lot of careful planning. Dr. Foster called Dr. Stanley Rodriguez, a Harvard professor who studied Victorian mourning customs and post-mortem photos. When she described what she found, he became very interested. "That is not an everyday example," he told her. "Ordinary post-mortem pictures were simple. But this level of illusion, making a dead child appear fully alive in the middle of a happy family scene, required real artistry and technical knowledge. The photographer was not just saving a memory. He was helping the family pretend a loss never happened." Dr. Rodriguez visited the lab soon after. Together they looked at every detail. They saw how Alice's eyes had been created with painted glass pieces placed over her closed eyelids. Makeup had been applied to her face and hands to give her cheeks a healthy pink color. Her hair looked thicker because extra strands had been carefully added. Even her beautiful white dress had been quietly altered, so the metal support stayed completely hidden while the fabric draped naturally. Dr. Rodriguez explained that child death was sadly very common before modern medicine. Rich families like the Whitmores had money to pay for beautiful, lasting memorials that poorer families could never afford. The body had to be well preserved with special chemicals. Then the photographer had only a short time to pose everything perfectly before changes became noticeable. "This portrait mixes deep grief, strong denial, and amazing skill," he said. The Whitmores were trying to build a perfect picture of a family that stayed whole forever. Dr. Foster searched old Boston newspapers, city directories, and photographer advertisements from 1905. She found only a few people who offered artistic memorial portraits for grieving families. One name stood out: Herman Blackwood. He had a high-class studio in the Back Bay neighborhood. His ads in the Boston Globe promised beautiful, sensitive pictures for important families. In the Boston Public Library archives, she found surviving record books from Blackwood's studio. One page showed a large order from the Whitmore family dated September 1905. The job was described as a special family memorial portrait requiring advanced preparation and positioning. It took 3 full days. Blackwood charged $200, a very large amount of money back then. His notes explained many details. He used expensive French cosmetics to give Alice a lifelike color. He built a custom support frame to hold her body naturally. A local undertaker helped preserve the body. A seamstress quietly changed the dress so the rods stayed invisible. Margaret Whitmore stayed in the studio the whole time. She made many choices about how her daughter should look and where she should stand. Blackwood wrote, "Mrs. Whitmore wishes Alice placed in the center so she remains the heart of the family always." After that big job, Blackwood closed his memorial photography business in 1906. His last newspaper ad said he was switching to landscape pictures only. Many people believed the sad work had become too heavy for him to carry. Old letters found in the Massachusetts Historical Society share owed how much pain the family carried. In March 1904, Margaret wrote to her sister in New York, "The house is so quiet without Alice. Jonathan hardly speaks at dinner. The boys keep asking when their little sister will wake up from her long sleep. We walk around like shadows, missing her at every moment." Boston society in those days expected wealthy families to look perfect. Showing sadness or loss could hurt business, friendships, and social standing. Some people even thought child death meant the family had done something wrong. The Whitmores felt pressure to hide their grief. They needed a picture for a special 1905 book called Distinguished Families of Beacon Hill. Every important family had to send a formal portrait, rather than show an empty space where Alice should be, or skip the book completely. They decided to make it look like she was still alive. In a later letter, Margaret wrote, "We know Alice is safe with God, but we cannot let the world see our family as broken. This photograph lets us keep the memory of how we were supposed to be, whole and happy with our 3 children. Maybe it is pride, but to us it feels like love." The secret hurt them for many years. In 1910, Margaret had a serious nervous breakdown after a friend casually asked about Alice's school. The question made her panic because she had to pretend her daughter was still alive. Jonathan's heart problems grew worse from constant worry and strain. Doctors wrote that he suffered from family stress of unknown cause. The 2 boys were never told the full truth when they were young. They grew up confused why Alice never came to holidays or family trips. In 1915, Charles, then 21, found Alice's death certificate while doing a school project on family history. Learning that the treasured photo on the dining room wall was actually a picture with his dead sister broke something inside him. The family began to fall apart. By 1920, Jonathan and Margaret sold a Beacon Hill house quietly. They left Boston without telling anyone where they were going. The portrait was sealed behind the dining room wall before they moved, hidden along with the pain it carried. Margaret spent her last years in a private hospital in California. Records show she suffered deep depression and often spoke about Alice as though she was still a little girl playing nearby. Jonathan died in 1925. His newspaper obituary listed only 2 children and made no mention of a daughter. 6 months after the discovery, Dr. Foster opened a special exhibit at the Boston Historical Society called Hidden Grief, Victorian Mourning, and the Art of Memory. The Whitmore portrait stood in the center. Panels explained post-mortem photography, old mourning customs, and the family's sad story. Everything was presented with care and respect for the real pain behind the picture. The exhibit drew large crowds, photography experts, history students, and people searching their own family trees came to see it. Some visitors realized old photos in their homes might also hide similar secrets. Through careful research, Dr. Foster found living relatives of the Whitmore family. Charles's granddaughter, Patricia Chen, lived in Seattle. She had heard bits of the story about a lost sister, but never knew the whole truth. When she visited Boston and saw the portrait, tears came to her eyes. "This explains so much about my grandfather," she said. "He never talked about his childhood. Now I understand why the secret weighed on him all his life." Patricia shared more family papers, including a private diary Charles wrote when he was older. In it, he described the pain of learning the truth and his wish that Alice's memory could finally be honored openly instead of kept hidden in shame. With help from Patricia and Oath, distant relatives, Dr. Foster arranged for a proper gravestone for Alice at Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge. The new stone reads, "Alice Whitmore, 1897-1903, beloved daughter and sister forever. Remembered today." The portrait hangs in the Historical Society's permanent collection. A clear sign beside it tells Alice's full story. It explains the rare post-mortem techniques and the deep love and sorrow that led the Whitmores to create such an unusual picture. Alice Whitmore stayed hidden for more than a century, behind wallpaper, wood, and family silence. Now her short life is remembered openly and with kindness. Her story shows us that facing loss honestly, even when it hurts, brings more healing than any beautiful illusion ever could. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, comment your thoughts, and subscribe.